This week on The Startup Life.
When I joined the technical path, my dream job was still to teach. It was just now I want to teach heating and air conditioning.
All right, Startup Nation, so let's take flight with Rolandaus Rodgers, founder and owner of Rolandaus Rodgers Air Conditioning and Heating. The Startup Life begins now.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hey, Startup Nation, do you enjoy the startup life? Now you can let the world know with gear from the show. Choose from the label yourself, make your own look, and making money t-shirts to tell your story of your path of entrepreneurship. Click the link in the show notes to purchase. All right, Startup Nation, so I hope you're ready to receive some value today. We got a special guest in the building today, Mr. Rolandaus Rodgers. What's going on, boss?
What's up, man? How are you?
You know me, living the dream. You ready to pour some knowledge in the startup life today?
I think I'm ready.
All right. As always, this is the Startup Life powered by the Binge Podcast Network. So first thing first, Ro, tell me about your path to entrepreneurship, man, and tell us about your company.
All right, my path wasn't a typical path, in my opinion. I never really desired to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I grew up in Memphis, you know that, in the Westwood area.
For sure.
And I started down the path of what they call the dual path, in high school.
For sure,
so
for sure.
I was considering the 4-year thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did have the trade as an option. And what happened was we had the broadcasting program. The broadcasting program came up. And I entered the broadcasting program, and I kind of fell in love with that.
Okay.
And after then, we had the Votech teachers to come around.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the Votech teachers, they were recruiting, basically trying to recruit you to come to their particular program. One of the Votech teachers said he made $10,000 in one weekend doing heating and air conditioning.
Wow.
So I immediately said I want to join his class. And
gotcha.
That's kind of how I got my foot into heating and air. So that was 11th grade. I started doing heating and air conditioning. And initially it was, we were getting bussed over to the Southwest Votech Center, meet new people.
For sure.
I didn't know if I was going to like it or anything like that. I fell in love with it, 11th grade. And I was like, man, this is coming way more easier than I expected.
Gotcha.
So I did that 11th grade, did that 12th grade. By the time I graduated in 2004, my mind was made up. I'm going to take the technical path.
Gotcha.
And one of the reasons that I made up my mind to do that is because I saw so many people in my environment, cousins and friends who had taken the 4-year path and received degrees, but they were still struggling to find satisfaction in their work life. And so the way I looked at it was I can go down this technical path with this trade. I know if I do this, I'm going to always have work. And initially, my goal was still to teach, though. If I was going to take the 4-year route, I would have been a teacher.
Okay.
So when I joined the technical path, my dream job was still to teach. It was just now I want to teach heating and air conditioning. So
gotcha.
I went that route. After I graduated from high school, I went to Vatterott College and got my heating and air conditioning technology degree there. Immediately after that, I was hired at one of the largest residential HVAC companies in Memphis. In my opinion, at that time, it was the best, and I learned so much there. And I stayed there a handful of years, and the opportunity came up for me to teach heating and air conditioning at the trade school that I went to. So I taught there for almost around 8 years.
Oh, wow.
I was the HVAC teacher there, which was my dream job, right? And the thing is, it came way sooner than I expected.
Gotcha.
So again, from the time I was in 12th grade, I want to do, I want to teach heating and air for. I want to teach. I feel like that's my calling in life, teaching. I teach a lot of other things, but some other things too.
For sure.
But when it came, again, it came way sooner. So I'm 23, 24 years old, and I've been teaching 5-6 years, and I'm like, man, I have a long life ahead of me.
Right.
What's next? Right?
Okay.
So even though I enjoyed teaching, the scheduling where I was kind of difficult because it was a split shift.
Right.
And I know it's a long story, but it was a split shift. So we worked in the morning, worked in the evening. Long story short, I wasn't able to get home to my family in time. And I went to my my boss at that time, and I was like, I'd love to teach, but is it okay if I just start working the day shift only so I can get home? Now, in the meantime, I had already started the heating and air on the side. It was just like a side hustle, right?
Sure.
But I'm still not expecting to do this full time. I just love teaching. But as I'm doing this on the side, I'm getting more and more customers. I'm starting to make more and more money. I'm starting to see traction. And then every evening, I'm driving back into my teaching job, and I'm having to turn away money. I'm having to turn away customers to get back to this teaching job. Plus, I don't get home till late at night.
Gotcha.
So I feel like those circumstances and God kind of pushed me to my entrepreneur career because I wasn't allowed to get that time off and only teach the morning class. So I was like, okay, more so than money, more so than this career, is that family time.
For sure.
And
Absolutely.
I was like, in order for me to spend time with my family, I'm going to have to take this jump. And that was like the thing that kind of initiated. But again, the reason it was kind of easy, and what I think confirmed it was I was slowly growing my side hustle, and it was slowly becoming a business.
For sure.
And I fed into that. I nurtured it. I got a little encouragement, and here we are today. I'm the owner of Ro Rodgers Air Conditioning and Heating, which what I believe is the best, one of the best residential heating and air conditioning
It's the
companies.
best. We just gonna say it's the best.
It's the best. There we go.
There you go.
We try to be humble with it, right? But I feel like it's the best heating and air conditioning company that you can call for residential heating and air.
Gotcha. That's what's up, man. That's a lot. And Startup Nation, I want to dive into a little bit of something that Rose said. You know, first of all, finding that work-life balance. That's always important. You know, if you're out here grinding, that's great. But if you don't have time for family, what is it all worth for, right?
That's true.
What is it all for? But, you know, I want to ask you something that you said. So when you talked about, you know, that you love teaching, and that was something you just always just wanted to do, were you a bit fearful of making that shift from something that you always loved to do into doing that entrepreneurial side? Like, what was that shift to where it's like, I don't know, but I'm just gonna go for it? Like, you know, what is that thought process like?
Well, again, for me, it was a little unique because I was already growing my business.
Right.
So I would say I didn't have the fear
Okay.
that I otherwise would have had
Gotcha.
if I didn't have some evidence.
Fair enough.
And I feel
Fair
like
enough.
because again, when I was growing this business over like 3-4 years, and so like I said, every year I'm getting more and more customers. Every year I'm getting more and more people saying that they will do business with me and showing that they'll do business with me. So I felt like it wasn't a big risk, to be honest,
for sure,
because I had some proof there.
For sure. Well, let me ask you this, man. What did the family think about when you made that shift? Because I mean, you see the proof of concept. You're like, man, like this can work. But family doesn't always, and friends also as well. They don't always see that. How did you reconcile that with family and friends?
Good question. Great question. The wife, right? Mm-hmm. And that's who was most important
For sure.
with that decision.
Absolutely.
At first, she didn't see it at all, like you said.
Right.
So one of the things that I did, and it's crazy, I have most of my friends, at least in the business world, do heating and air as well.
Okay.
So what I did was I used the example of one of my friends, and I threw out some numbers that he was making in his business.
Okay.
To comfort my wife.
Okay.
Which I did that just for her. I knew the whole time I wasn't going to take his same business model, right?
For sure.
So even though we were doing a similar business, he was doing it through a different model. But what I did is I signed up with some home warranty companies.
Oh, okay.
And what I told my wife is these home warranty companies are going to give me the business. So if I ever get slow, then I just sign up with another home warranty company, and there's nothing to worry about.
Gotcha.
Which again, in my mind, I'm never going to depend on these home warranty companies, but it's a good safety net. And
Right.
that was also a reality because, of course, even though I said I didn't feel a lot of risk, there's always risk, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that also comforted me, saying, okay, if I don't grow my customer base the way that I want to, I can always sign up with another home warranty company. And one of my close friends was doing the same thing with home warranty company, and he worked a whole lot with them. He brought in some good revenue.
Right.
So I told my wife, I said, this person right here, he signed up with this home warranty company, and this is what he's making. And then that was just kind of let her know it's out there. And I believe in me. I believe I can do it without doing that.
Absolutely.
But that was something for her to see, right?
For sure.
So that kind of helped that transition. Friends, they they didn't come around, right? It's like show and prove. So,
gotcha.
and I was never concerned about friends. Like my whole life, I've kind of been a loner, which is in some ways good, in some ways bad.
Gotcha.
And I have friends, but the one really important friend, he was there for me. And when I say really important, he knows the business. He knows business. So he was there for me. He saw it. He's also one of my, customers. So he was there to support, and everybody else, it was like show and prove. I don't expect them to believe.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Now, Startup Nation, Ro brought up something really interesting that I want you to take heed into. So when he talks about signing up with the home warranty companies or whatever, right? That's less time he has to spend marketing or whatever. That's like easy money almost, right? Because like they're bringing business to you. You don't have to go out and get that business. And so when you're making that transition from 9 to 5 to entrepreneur, that's something that you can look into, Startup Nation, as you make that transition. But before we dive back into it, man, you're a Longhorn, I'm a Longhorn. We both went to Westwood High School here in Memphis, Tennessee, man. And we have a lot of friends who went to Westwood that are entrepreneurs, man. What's in the water in Westwood, dude? What's going on there?
That's a good question. I think we know a lot of people in the Memphis area call Westwood the bottom. And I think it's something in that coming out of that environment.
Real quick, shout out to Ashley Holder, who was on the Startup Life as once upon a time as well. But go ahead, man. Just one of those examples.
I would like to shout out Ashley too. She's also one of my good customers. She's
there
the
it is.
best
there you
cake
go.
lady you can have.
For sure.
But I think it's the determination that we have coming from humble beginnings, and I think again the attitude a lot of times is show and prove.
Yeah,
like coming from Westwood, a lot of people counted us out. Growing up in Westwood, when people said you're from Westwood, people automatically mention negative things.
For sure.
Well, I heard Westwood do this. I heard Westwood do that. But again, we have a group of people who were intelligent that people don't talk about. You have intelligent people in Westwood. People don't talk about you have honest people in Westwood. So I think it was the fight, the determination to show people that Westwood is not just what you've seen on the news, or Westwood is not just what you heard. And again, I think we have a certain grit that a lot of people just don't have.
I believe that. And I think growing up in Westwood, that adversity is one of our biggest, going through adversity is one of our biggest strong suits to make us to where we can be successful entrepreneurs and business owners or whatever we decide to do, right? But I think that grit that you talk about, I think a lot of people in other places in the city don't really have it like we do. But I'm biased, but maybe that's just me. For sure.
I think you're right.
For sure. But let me ask you this, man. Like, who or what inspires you as an entrepreneur and why?
I get inspiration from a lot of sources.
Okay.
And a lot of people. So one of the things that I think is a good quality that I have is I'm always sponging.
Gotcha.
I'm always sponging. So every single person that I see, I'm looking at the good in them, and I'm wondering, what can I take from them? So some of the main people that I get inspiration from on a daily basis are entrepreneurs. Like in general, I listen to certain podcasts. One of them being this one. So your wife, the owls. Having an owl in your corner.
I appreciate that.
You all really give me inspiration, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here, but when I look up and I see people who are from where I'm from,
right?
Being successful, and again, not selling for the status quo, right?
For sure.
That always inspires me. So again, you and the other entrepreneurs from the Westwood area, but then it's people on a larger scale.
For sure.
Like people. I just listen to people's stories and people like Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality. One of the reasons that somebody like Kobe inspires me is because he's not, again, what you see when you look. Like a lot of people may not know how many languages Kobe speaks. A lot of people may not know, how he's so into detail. A lot of people may not know is that he didn't just depend on talent, but he depended on work ethic.
For sure.
And I look at somebody like that, not saying that I want to be them, but again, that work ethic, those details and things like that inspire me. And of course, people like Mark Cuban, that
for sure.
He inspires me, and again, I can go on and on. Damon, I'm a big fan of Shark Tank, so anybody on that cast, and I do have some local people, as well, but mainly people who I can look at, identify with, and say, that's great. Let me steal some of that greatness and apply that to my life.
I hear that. Let me steal some of that grace and apply it to my own. I hear that, man, for sure. Let me ask you this, man. What do you wish you would have known before you started your business, Ro?
So what I wish I would have known before starting a business is the importance of networking and building meaningful relationships.
Gotcha.
I mentioned earlier, I was sort of a loner, coming up in high school.
Yeah.
So, and I had a few friends. I was kind of, friendly with people, but I didn't build relationships.
For sure.
And that, in a sense, affected my business in a negative way because, as you know, like, in order to grow a business, you need people. The
Absolutely.
more people, the stronger your network. So I had to build my network on the back end, more so than I would have if I would have already had a larger network. So I wish I would have known the importance of, again, networking, building relationships, being in the community more.
Right. And that part is important, man, especially like because we're both in service-based businesses, right? It's like, we don't sell cupcakes and hamburgers, so we kind of have to explain a little bit about what we do.
Right.
And so, no, that's important to understand, Startup Nation. Like, especially in service-based businesses, you got to build that network. Sometimes it's just one of the things you just cannot get around. You just cannot. Thank you for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. So let me ask you this, man. What did you learn from your worst boss, mentor, or teacher you ever had?
From my worst boss, I learned how not leading effectively can kill the morale in a workplace environment. And so what I do is, again, I take things and I'm a sponge. So I looked at what they did do or what they didn't do well and how it, again, in my workplace, how it killed the morale.
For sure.
And when the morale is gone, it's going to affect the product. So I take that and apply it to my life and I say, okay, I've seen what happens when you do this, so I'm going to make sure I don't do that.
Gotcha, for sure. And it's important to understand that we can learn a little bit of something from everybody, right? It's not just because somebody gives us great advice doesn't necessarily mean we can't learn from that person. At the very least, we can learn not how to do what they did wrong, right?
Right.
So I'm glad you pointed that out. Let me ask you this, man. How do you market or advertise? You use social media, word of mouth. What works best for you? Now I know. Now I've seen you at the spot. We both, me and you know what the spot is, right? So they ain't paying for no sponsorship, so we ain't gonna say that over there. But I always think that like when you go through the drive-through or whatever, you're giving that, you're advertising because you're in that big beautiful van that you got, right? And it's like plastered all over the face, Ro Rodgers, heating and air and stuff like that. So I think that's brilliant, by the way. But what are other ways that you get the word out that you're here to serve the community for sure?
Word of mouth is one, of course. Besides word of mouth, we do advertising on social media. Okay. I have a Facebook business page. I have a Twitter business page. I have a IG business page. Okay. And we pump things on those. Sometimes in order to get more involvement, we will do like drawings and giveaways on the Facebook page. And we also do paid advertising on social media. Okay. So Facebook switched up their algorithm a while back to where it's not as easy to get your name out organically. So we will do paid advertising campaigns. I've done some radio advertising, and I've also done something that I try to encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to do when you first get your name out there. One of my best forms of advertising was the Groupon. And the way that came about was I was driving down the street, and my wife, she's big into couponing and saving and things like that. Gotcha. So she was on this app and she was talking about all these huge savings. And I was like, what are you on? She said, I'm on Groupon. So I said, look and see if there are any service companies on there, heating and air, things like that. She said, yeah, they have a service category. So what I did was I signed up to get a Groupon ad, and I looked at all the service companies in the area, and I made sure that I had the best deal in the Memphis area. And it was a dead giveaway. So what I did was I signed up. I did a promotion to do a heating tune-up and an air conditioning tune-up for $29. Okay. I come out, check your heat and AC and tune it up for $29. Wow. Now the thing about that is when you do a Groupon, you don't get all of that money. You get half of that money. So basically, I'm getting $17. Right. But this is how that helped me. I was getting in front of so many people because it was the best. By being the biggest discount, that was like an 80% discount. Right. By being the biggest discount, they put me at the very top. Gotcha. And I got in front of so many people, and once I got into the homes of the people, I just, did what I do, showed them great customer service, and I got a lot of customers from there. My very first Groupon customer. He was someone who had rental properties. He had 8 rental properties.
Okay.
So I ended up getting him as a customer and all of his rental properties. He also turned me on to somebody who had 27 rental properties. So I ended up taking care of all of theirs. So that's one of the things. Again, I do social media and I look for different couponing things that I know homeowners will look at. So. And in internet, I do SEO as well, internet advertising and Google.
For sure. And, Startup Nation, if you're here in the Memphis area and you want to get in contact with Ro Heating and Air, all of his IG, Facebook, Twitter, and website is there in the show notes for easy access for you to access and get in contact with him. And also, 2 things I want to point out. One thing I want to point out, and 2 is a follow-up question, actually. The first thing is that, like, you brought up something really important. We have a lot of new entrepreneurs out there. It's like, full price everything, right? Like, pay me what you owe and this, that, and the other. And so they don't understand that sometimes you kind of have to reduce that rate or do something that gives the customer value in order to get in front of more eyeballs, right? Sometimes you got to sacrifice the price point to get in front of more people.
That's
right,
true.
And so I'm glad you pointed that out and that you showed that you found success with that. That's proof of concept that can work. But also, what I've also noticed on your Facebook business pages is sometimes there's a level of teaching there, right? So it's almost kind of like you still get to have the business, but also kind of educate the masses on what to look for in your heating and air conditioning units or whatever the case may be.
Definitely.
Maybe if there's something that you can kind of tune up yourself, or it's time to bring Ro in to kind of let me know it's a little bit more advanced. Bring me in, let me help you out.
Definitely.
But have you been able to find some peace with that part that you're able still to kind of teach or whatever? And talk about how that content marketing has actually helped your business a little bit, if you would.
What you pointed out, I was just explaining to my cousin a week ago. I have a first cousin who was also an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So we were talking, about business, and one of the things that I told her is, I really love teaching, and she asked me, do you miss teaching full time? Do you miss teaching, and are you saddened sometimes that you're not teaching? I said no, and she said, why not? And I said, because I'm teaching every day.
There it
the
is.
thing about a teacher is that's who you are. So when you're a teacher at heart, no matter what you're doing or where you go, you're always teaching. You just can't help it.
Right.
So I told her the only difference is instead of me standing in a classroom and teaching 30 people at a time, 40 people at a time, I get to teach individual homeowners one-on-one. And that's why I tell my homeowners, and I love that. And that's one of the reasons I love residential work more so than commercial work, is because that teaching aspect is there with residential. With commercial, you're going into a business and, everybody is working. But a lot of times when a homeowner calls, they want to learn more. And they may call and say, okay, I read about this particular thermostat online. It says it's a smart thermostat. What's the difference between a smart thermostat and a normal thermostat?
Right.
And I love the opportunity to break that down to them.
For sure.
And, the other thing about me teaching is, like you said, customers really appreciate that. That adds value. One of my most recent reviews that I received on Google, the customer talked about how I answered all of her many questions. And because I'm a teacher at heart, it doesn't bother me when the customer asks 30 questions. A lot of times the customer will apologize and say things like, I'm sorry for asking so many questions. And I invite that because I feel like as a technician, as a business owner, my goal is not to sell you things. My goal is to educate you about the services, educate you about your equipment, educate you about your options, and let you make an informed decision. And that falls right in line with the teacher that I am at heart.
Absolutely. And I think what you're doing, Ro, when you do that is like you're in. Not only are you empowering the customer to make an informed decision, but you're having them invested in the process. And if they're invested in the process, they're going to be not only a very well-paying client, but they're also going to be a good client. So that way, when you give them instructions or whatever the case may be, they're going to follow those instructions, and that makes your job easier. So no, I think that's an excellent form of marketing and empowering the customer for sure. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Let me ask you this, man. What you learned from your biggest failure?
What I learned from my biggest failure is that failure isn't the end.
I hear that.
So I haven't had, at least in business, a huge failure, that I would say stand out, way much more than the other failures. But again, since I'm a teacher, I'm also always in student mode. And like I said, I'm a sponge. So every time I fail, I look at it, I assess the situation, and I'm always asking, how can I bounce back from this? But I will give an example of one of the, it's sort of small, but in business, I'd say probably the biggest failure that I could think of. I have a lot of reviews, right? And I have mostly great reviews, at least actually all great reviews. But one time I did get a really bad review. That was my fault. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get bad reviews
for sure.
that aren't our fault.
Yeah.
But I got one that was my fault, and this was what happened. I scheduled a call with a customer, and when I scheduled the call with the customer, I took down their information, but I took down everything except for the phone number, right? So I gave them a window. I said something like, I'm going to be there between 2 and 4 this afternoon, and I'm out working that day, and 2 o'clock came, and I always give my customers a heads up. So 2 o'clock came, and I was going to call and say, you know what, this job here has taking a little bit longer, so I'm going to have to be there a little later, but I just wanted to let you know I'm still coming and make sure everything is okay. Well, I grabbed my information, I looked for my information, I had everything except for the customer's phone number, right? So I had his name, address, the time, no phone number, so I couldn't call. So the next day I'm working and I get a notification saying you have a new review. I look at this review and it's a 1-star review.
Right.
Terrible. Of course, my heart dropped. I've always been looking forward to my first bad review, but my heart dropped. And it said, don't ever call this company. They're a liar. They'll give you an appointment, and they're not going to keep up to it. And I said, okay, you deserve that review. That was the first thing. You deserve that.
I hear that.
Because you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
Right.
But the other thing was, even though I failed in that moment, it's not the end. So when I fail, the next question is, okay, you failed, it's over with. How are you going to respond? So I did all I could to get get into contact with this customer. Long story short, I went out, I found out, what the inconvenience was, at least from that customer's perspective. I found out they had somebody else come out and checked it, and I paid for the diagnosis costs for that other company just to let them know that I understand the severity of my mistake. I understand that I failed you. I'm not going to shy away from that or run away from that.
I hear that.
And I care so much about what I did. I would like the opportunity to do whatever it takes to earn your business again. And if I can't do that, I still understand because I don't deserve it at this point. But I want you to know that I care. So the failure taught me, and what happened after that, which I didn't expect, that same day, some hours later, he went and changed that 1-star review to a 4-star review.
Look at there.
Because he saw that I was sincere. He saw that I actually cared. He wasn't just another customer, oh, forget them. He saw that. He changed that review. And what that showed me was, it's not that you fail, it's how you respond when you fail.
Absolutely.
Because in business, you're going to always have some things that you don't do quite right.
Right. You're going to have those hiccups, right?
Right.
No, for sure. No, that's powerful because I think we have a lot of new entrepreneurs out there to where when they get that 1-star review, like, oh, well, I'm just going to chuck that up. But no, you took the initiative to try to turn that 1 into a 4. And first of all, I commend you for that. That's dope. But also, I think it speaks to perseverance. And I understand, like you said, like failure isn't the end. So I appreciate you sharing that with Startup Nation for sure. Let me ask you this, man. Entrepreneurs are always learning. You're the consummate, when you're a teacher, you're the consummate student, right? So we're always talking about sharpening the saw. So what does professional development look like for you, and what are you learning now?
Right now, I'm focusing on leadership a lot in my learning. There's a leadership podcast that Dave Ramsey puts out.
Leadership.
You know about the EntreLeadership. So I listen to that daily, and that's one of the things with me. This year, I picked up my first employee. Okay. So one of my goals again is to be a great leader, and not just, I don't want to be a boss, right? I don't want to only be a boss. I mean, I understand technically you are a boss, but I don't want the boss attitude. My whole thing is I want to lead. So right now, a lot of my focus in my professional development is on becoming an effective leader and what that looks like on many levels in the business.
Gotcha. I hear that, man. So how's that been working out with your new team member there? How's it been working out so far?
It's going well.
Okay.
It's going well. A lot of things that I'm telling you, I've been learning. A lot of things that I've been learning. Able to apply. And he is a great young person, and he's what. I don't want to, get too far ahead of myself, but he's a great person to have on a team.
Okay.
So with that, when it comes to hiring people, I have to trust him, right?
For sure.
So he's somebody that I trust to do the job right, but not just do the job right, because a lot of people could do the job right, but to have the right attitude and to take care of customers. So it's going well so far.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier about like you having friends that they'll go on that 4-year path, right? And so we have like things like rising tuition costs and stuff like that. So it begs the question. If you want to be an entrepreneur, is it best to go the 4-year route, do some networking, because we did establish that networking is important, or do you just need work ethic and a dream, man? It's like, what do you stand on that?
I lean more so toward work ethic and a dream.
Okay.
I'm biased, right? But I do see the value on the other side, right?
For sure.
So what I think is you have to know who you are as an individual. Mm-hmm. So I think, of course, for me, the best route was not the 4-year route, but that's because I feel like I can learn what I need without going that route. I think there are probably certain industries and certain careers where you cannot or may not be able to get it as easy. Mm-hmm. And then again, it depends on you as an individual. Some people learn in an environment alone. Like I learned better alone.
Gotcha.
So with having a lot of other things going on in the 4-year lifestyle would have served as a distraction for me personally. And again, what I was able to do to avoid that and still be successful is I learned from a lot of people who did go that 4-year route. So instead of me, spending that $60,000 on that degree, I go and I get nuggets and I get instruction and I get value from the person who did do that, and I learn from their mistakes, and I can apply that to my business and my life. But I wouldn't say that it's not needed for anyone. I don't think it's needed for everyone.
Gotcha. I hear that. You said something. I want to ask a follow-up real quick. You said that you learn better alone, right? And so in a industry, I imagine like heating and air, when you first started out, it was just you by yourself. I know you just hired somebody, but it was just you by yourself. Do you think that's why you was able to gain that success? Because like your personality and that business seemed to fit better. Do you think that kind of attributes to your success a little bit, or not so much?
I think it does. I think it does contribute to it in a sense, because again, most of my work was alone.
Right.
Most of my work was alone, so I'm in the attics alone. I'm in the basements alone, and I'm doing the work alone. So again, as I'm going through the trials, it's just me, right? Versus somebody over my shoulder, pointing out things, and so that did help me because it fits my personality.
Gotcha.
But even though I say when I say I learn better alone, I'm specifically talking about processing and holding information, right?
For sure.
So I'm not, devaluing what I can learn in group settings.
For sure.
But yeah, when it comes to processing information and retaining information, I do all that alone. I've always been that way. I'm the one, I can't study and listen to music at the same time.
Gotcha.
Like I need clarity. I need just my space. So that definitely helps me in HVAC because it's just me and that unit, me and that system, and me and my business.
Gotcha. And I think, by you working alone, doing it your way and your process, this, that, and the other. But I think you was able to learn as well that eventually we got to bring in some help.
Definitely.
So, you got to bring in some help. So thank you for sharing that. Last question before we go to break, man. What's your average day look like from sun up to sundown? Be as specific as possible.
Get up early in the morning. Well, when I say early, it's not early for most. Early in the morning is like 6:30 to 7:30 for me.
Gotcha.
Depending on the day. Most days 6:30 because I'm trying to be at my first client's house at 9 o'clock.
For sure.
So I get up early in the morning. I'm spending time with the family. Son, I have a 4-year-old. He's trying to go off, so get him off. Spend a little time with the family in the morning. I like to get some encouragement going in the morning. Sometimes that encouragement is music. Just depending on my mood. Sometimes it's music. Sometimes it's an early morning podcast. Sometimes it's the Bible. I don't do a lot of reading in the morning, but I'll play the Bible. Just listen. Listen to the actual words. And so I get the inspiration in me. And after I do that, I'm going straight to my schedule for the day.
Gotcha.
A lot of times over the night, I may receive, a lot of inboxes, emails, and things like that. So I'm going for my schedule, what I already have, what's come in overnight, and getting that planned out. And then I'm headed out to my to the spot a lot of times. You know,
sure. To the spot.
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So I head out to the spot, and once I leave the spot, it's to that customer's house.
Gotcha.
Usually, I'm doing between 4 and 6 calls a day. It does slow down some in the winter. So the first call again, I'm normally trying to be there around 9 o'clock, and from there I may work until like 6 p.m. sometimes 8, 9 p.m. depending on the schedule of the homeowners. And once I get back in, it's invoicing, right?
Gotcha,
So that's the hard, one of the hard parts of the business. Like a lot of people only see what I'm doing. So when I get back is I got to get all the invoicing taken care of. I got to make sure I get in my notes. And after then, I try to get some time in with the little man again, or in between there, because he has a bedtime. So I'm a night owl.
Gotcha.
So that's the night. And do it all over the next day.
I hear that. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. How you like being on the Startup Life so far, man?
Man, it's a pleasure. I'm loving it.
Awesome. All right, Startup Nation. I hope you're getting great value from Rolandaus content, but we got to pay some bills. Once again, my name is Dominic Lawson, and you're listening to The Startup Life. Hey business owner, the Startup Life reach is growing. Wouldn't you like your business to grow with it? Reach out to us to advertise on the Startup Life. You can reach us at 901-857-4818, or you can email me at dominic@askalsolutions.com. I mean, don't get me wrong, like this is a great music to have break on, but wouldn't this break sound a lot better with the same music but your business being advertised on it? Need more content from the Startup Life, you say? You can now sign up for the Startup Life All Access Pass on the Binge Podcast Network's Patreon page. There is exclusive content written by yours truly, video content where I share even more of my business philosophies, and whatever crazy content I can think of out of that crazy head of mine. And at only $5 a month, $5 a month, this is more content for you, Startup Nation, to really get ahead of your competition. So instead of upsizing that meal at your favorite fast food joint, you can now invest in yourself on your path to entrepreneurship. Click the link in the show notes to sign up. All right, Startup Nation, so let's continue. So, Ro, man, let me ask you this, man. What's the best and worst piece of advice you've ever gotten?
The best piece of advice I've gotten is don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
And again, that's naturally how I think in a way, but that helped me. So in business, almost everything that I do, I've seen somebody else succeed at doing it. So instead of me coming out and saying, I'm not naturally an ideal person. I'm not an inventor, right?
Gotcha.
But I'm a business owner. So I'm not saying I don't get ideas, but that's not my strong suit. So what I do is I have a vision of what I want my business to be, and with that vision, I have to take the proper steps to get it there, right? But somebody told me long ago, you don't have to recreate the wheel when it's already there. Don't try to recreate the wheel unless that's your thing.
Right.
And that helped me because what I started to do is I looked at people who were successful at what I wanted to do, and then I started to pick them. How did they get there? And I just followed those steps.
Gotcha.
So that was one of the best pieces of advice. Don't go out and try to recreate everything if it's already a structure there. Now, if there is no structure, be the trailblazer.
Right.
But
for sure,
you don't have to recreate something that's already there.
For sure. What about the worst piece of advice?
The worst piece of advice was
stay at that teaching job.
You know what? I have a very interesting story now that you mentioned that.
Oh, we like stories.
Before that teaching job, the worst advice was don't take that job. And it's basically don't follow your dream, follow the money. I would summarize it like that. So the teaching job was a pay cut. I was an HVAC technician again at one of the probably the largest HVAC companies, so I was doing well. But the teaching job was a pay cut, and I was advised by certain people in power at a certain place not to take that job, and they gave me so many reasons why. They said, if you take that teaching job, then you're gonna make way less money. They said teaching is a noble task, but that teaching job is not at a school. It was not a Memphis City schools. It's at a corporate environment, and corporate is so cutthroat. And they gave me all the reasons why I shouldn't take the teaching job. They say, the teaching job is not going to be able. You're not going to be able to provide for your family in the future because you can't stack money fast, and all these reasons. And what I took from that was don't follow your dream. And I was telling them, I said, I'm not making this decision based upon money. I don't make any decision solely based upon money. Money does matter, but money isn't the only thing that matters. And I said, it's my dream. I want to do this. It's what I feel like I'm called to do right now. And I went against their advice, and that turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made.
I hear that.
And the same thing happened when it was time for entrepreneurship, right? I had people who did talk about how this teaching job is a sense of security. You know that you're going to get a certain salary here if you just stay here and teach. Now, it's very risky for you to go out there and start that business because, you don't know if you're going to be able to do it. You don't know. And I also had people saying, I've tried it, and it's way more work. It's way more work than you expect. So I would say that's the worst advice. People telling me not to do what I felt like what I was called to do at that moment. I was about to say just going against my heart, going against what I feel like I should be doing at my core. And I think that's what made it bad advice, and I think I'm proving people wrong.
Absolutely. But I want to dive into that a little bit because you bring up an interesting point, because you have a lot of people out there, and there are many people in Startup Nation who can relate to this. Like, they have people around them, sometimes not well-intentioned, sometimes people are well-intentioned, right? But they're projecting their fears or experience onto you.
Right, definitely.
Right? And it's like, how do you reconcile that? How do you understand that, let's just focus on the people who are well-intentioned. We ain't gonna focus on the people that's not. But, you understand, they're looking out for you, but how do you reconcile, I feel you, but I gotta do this? How do you reconcile that?
Honestly, that's my life.
I hear that.
It's been like that my whole life, right? So it's almost normal to me, right? I felt like in a lot of senses a misfit, an outcast, growing up. So I had to adapt to understanding that people don't understand me. Right. Even in my family, a lot of my close family members grew up in rural Mississippi, not too far, but in DeSoto County, in Mississippi.
Gotcha.
They looked at me, growing up in Westwood, and even though I'm their close family member, they didn't understand my life, right? So whenever I did things, they always projected, or whenever I looked a certain way, right? I had big hair. I had, what we used to call a Jerry curl. This is in elementary school.
Right.
I had a Jerry curl, and my family always projected things on me because of how it looked to them, right? Like, you look like this. And at one point I wore braids. At one point I had very long hair, and you look like this. At one point I wore baggy jeans, and they projected their fears on me my whole life. And so I learned at a young age that you are who you are, and I think that's one of my strengths. I'm self-aware, and I can compartmentalize things. So I learned, okay, these people mean well, but they just don't understand. And again, if it wasn't for my family dynamic growing up, I don't think I would have been able to handle that on the business side, but I saw it so much growing up in my own family, and that's something that we've had discussions about. It's like, these family members mean well when they say these things. They're in their mind, they're showing love. In their mind, they're protecting you. In their mind, they're warning you. But they don't understand. And the same thing with business. You have people who tried things and they failed, right? And they're like, don't do that because I tried it, and don't do that because it's this hard. And so it's just normal for me to look at them and say, I appreciate you. Because I really do appreciate them.
Right.
Because again, a lot of times you can tell the people who are hating or are trying to block you from the people who are really concerned and trying to advise you.
For sure.
So it was just normal for me to be able to look at that, receive that, and say, I appreciate you. But in my mind say, and sometimes depending on the person, say to them, but this is not the same situation.
I hear that.
I'm not you.
For sure. And thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you pointed that out. And that's why I wanted to ask, because I think a lot of times people who are entrepreneurs, I don't think it's always by accident. I think there's certain things in our life as we grow up that, whether it be, there's people projecting their fears, or whether it be people like to do small, like sell pencils when they're kids or something like that. There's always these inklings that's just inching and just asking to burst out. And I think as we get older, we're able to kind of pursue those things. And so thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that for sure. For sure. Let me ask you this, man. What's a popular misconception about business? Like the big one we always see is like you rolling in it, right? Like you just like, on top of buildings, just like fanning it out, right? But like, let's talk about that one also, but also some other misconceptions about starting a business for sure.
One of the big, like you said, they think you have money, right? Another one is people think if you have a business and, right, I can think of a lot of, if you have a business and you're not giving them the discount that they want, that you don't get, you don't give discounts, right?
Right.
So that's one of them. Like an example, a person may call and say, well, I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford to pay your prices. Will you still do the work? If you say, well, I can't do that right now, or this is the price, I'm sorry. If you can't pay the price right now, you may need to call another company. A lot of people will take that and say, this business owner don't care. This business owner, and the thing is, just because it didn't happen this time don't mean it's not happening all the time.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that people get wrong about business. They think that whatever that they can't see or whatever they don't know, it's not happening. Which is why it is good to show your involvement in the community sometimes, because for a lot of people, seeing is believing.
Right.
But even when you're doing that, you're still going to have those certain people who don't see it. And so that's one. And of course, they think they know. They think you're just making money. And the better your website looks, the more money they think you have, right?
Right.
If you have a wrap on your van instead of a magnet, they think you're automatically making more money. And what I tell people is, those things don't necessarily mean you're making money. Sometimes it just means you're spending more money.
For sure.
Sometimes it means you're in debt. But so you have that as well.
For sure. I'm glad you pointed that out. There's two things there. Like when you talk about the better website and the wrap on the van and stuff like that, I think there's a good side to that, only from the standpoint of like it raises the perceived value, right? Because like if I got a wrap on my van and a better website, they obviously must do great work, right? But also right, exactly. But also there's that flip side, like, oh, you got some money, like, bruh, like, look, don't let the van and the website fool you, like, we out here grinding it out, right?
Right.
But also, I want to point out the important piece of like the discounts that you talked about, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs or non-entrepreneurs need to understand that, like, when you can give a discount or something like that, something pro bono or whatever you decide to do, Groupon, like you said, sometimes it's to get more eyeballs, like we talked about earlier. But sometimes we may be in a position to give a discount. But I think it's important for new entrepreneurs to understand that, like, A, you can't service everybody. I'm sorry. You just can't. Like, maybe that's just money we just missed out. But also, B, maybe you're not in a position to give that discount right now because, like, we got bills due, right? We got, like, marketers to pay. We got to buy more equipment or wherever the case may be. If I'm giving you a discount, let's say I give you this discount, that means I have to go with the bargain brand, insert equipment here, as opposed to the higher, better, more durable brand of whatever it is. Forgive my ignorance. I'm not the HVAC expert, right? But you get exactly what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
But I think
that's true.
I think the important thing that Startup Nation you need to understand is that, like, you can have the social aspect, you can give back. That's all fine. But you can't do that part. You can't do the social give back part if you don't run the business right. You just cannot, because if you don't run the business right, you have no way to do the community part, give back, discounts from time to time, whatever the case may be. So I think that's a really important point that you brought up. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Think that brought up something to me. I had a customer, and what you said, I agree with 100%. And that's again a misconception. They don't understand that if the business don't make money, the business won't be here. Like when I provide a service, people are going to want a warranty, right?
Right.
So if I'm out of business 2 years from now, and you just spent, $5,000 for me to get a new system in, but I'm out of business because I didn't charge enough, how is that helping you?
Right, because that warranty goes away too,
right?
Right,
that warranty goes away. So me charging what I need to charge in order to make the profit that I need for the business to keep going is not just in my self-interest, but it's also in your interest. And I think that's one of the misconceptions. They don't realize that sometimes a business have to charge a certain thing, and when they do it, it's not them being selfish or greedy.
Right.
It's them looking out for you as well.
Right. Absolutely. No, you bring up a very important point. Business can do philanthropy, but business is not in the business of doing philanthropy. There's a big difference between the two, and I think both Startup Nation and people who are customers, clients, non-entrepreneurs, whatever the case may be, can come to understand that. So thank you for sharing that with me. But let me ask you this, man. Like, what made you decide to call it Ro Rodgers, Ro Rodgers Heating and Air, or whatever the case may be? Like, why did you choose this color scheme? Why did you choose, why didn't you name it something else? Like, what went behind the concept of naming the company?
The name itself was because my name is Ro, right? Well, my name is Rolandaus.
Rolandaus,
My
yes.
name is Rolandaus, but
You
a
okay
lot
if I call
of
you
people
Ro,
call me
okay?
Ro. I'm okay with Ro.
Okay.
Ro. I'm okay. But a lot of people call me Ro. And what I noticed was a lot of people, Ro has a ring to it, to be honest. Ro, and especially Ro Rodgers. When a lot of people hear Ro Rodgers, they think of Roy Rodgers.
Right, I've said it just a few times just now, so I'm like trying to correct myself, but go ahead.
So that was one of the reasons for the name. It's who I am, and then the other thing is it has a ring to it, and a part of that is you want something that people can remember, and that kind of helps people remember with it being so closely related to Roy Rodgers. I get so many people saying Roy Rodgers. I have a little quick follow-up. I always say just like Roy, but without the Y. It's like
Gotcha.
it comes so naturally.
Right.
And the color scheme and all that, I designed my own logo and all that. So the color scheme was just the to try to send the message of what we do, right? I'm not.
Okay,
a lot of people
yeah.
probably haven't seen the logo, or if they have, it's basically a snowflake in the background with a red arrow going, saying when you're cold, we can bring you heat.
Right.
And then it has a sun with a blue arrow saying, when you're hot, we bring the AC. So that's where the color scheme came from.
There it is. Thank you for sharing that, because like a lot of times, when we have logos, some people just make logos and just make a logo because we need a logo, right? But I think it's important to be very nuanced and intricate with the logo, to where it also tells what you're doing. Like, a lot of people don't even realize, like, when we talk about FedEx or whatever, right? Like the little arrow inside of it,
That's true.
meaning going forward, right? Now everybody catches that, right? So I'm glad
That's
you
true.
pointed that out. Appreciate that. So we talked earlier that you just brought out a new team member, right? New employee, or whatever the case may be, for sure. So before you brought them on the team, what were you looking for? What were you looking for as far as like, do they have great customer service? How can they continue to tell the story of Ro Rodgers Heating and Air? What was that process like, bringing on a new team member?
Number one with me when it came to hiring my first team member was character. Like what is this person's character? In the service industry, oftentimes you're in people's homes. Almost all the time. You're in somebody's home. Sometimes you're in someone's home alone. So the first thing is, can I trust this person? Right? Can I trust this person not only to be honest with me and not steal from me, but to be honest with my customers, not steal and do things that they shouldn't be doing in customers' homes. So that was the first thing. Are they honest? The other thing is, are they excited? Are they excited about the company? Are they excited about the opportunity? Just what is their excitement level?
Gotcha.
And then the other thing is, are they teachable? Do they want to learn? And I've heard before, you can take somebody who don't know anything about a certain trade or certain industry, and you can teach them that trade or industry, but a lot of times you can't teach them that character, right?
That's true.
And I've also seen it, through my 16 years of doing this. I've seen plenty of people who can fix heaters and air conditioning, but they'll lie to a customer, or they'll do something deceptive, or I've heard of people stealing, so it's like that type stuff you don't want. So the thing was, you can take somebody with great character, and he's also trained. So I'm not saying that my team is trained, but you can take somebody with great character, and you can get them to wherever they need to be on the technical side, right?
I hear that.
But it's kind of hard to do the opposite. Take somebody with great technical skills and bad character, and then get them to conform to the character of your business. So that was the main thing.
For sure. I appreciate you sharing that. Let me ask you this, man. Have you ever had to turn down a client before? And if so, give us a story if you can, but you can also, for obvious reasons, leave out the name for sure. But tell us the story.
I haven't had to turn down a client that needed the exact services that I provide, to be honest. Okay. Most of the times when I do turn down a client, it's because they want something that's related to my business, but we don't do An example is, I received a phone call last week from a customer who wanted me to come out and install a heater for him, but he wanted me to bring him a used heater. So a lot of people will look at me and say, you know what? Well, that's money. What's the big deal? You get a used heater, you check it out, you make sure that it works, you take it, you sell it to them, make money. But that's not a part of our business model. One of the things that we take pride in is we don't use any used parts, and I'm not knocking anybody who do, but we don't use any used parts or any used equipment. So I've had situations like that. I turn down people a lot because of it's commercial. I have a lot of people with businesses, and they want me to come and do work at their business. And I've tried it in the past, but again, the commercial work is somewhat different. So a couple of times when I did reach out there, even though it's not a part of the business model, I reached out there and it just didn't go or feel the way I wanted it to. So now, we often get calls from commercial companies saying, come to service our office business. So I turned down clients in that way. Gotcha. It's not the exact service. For
sure. But you bring up an interesting point, because I think a lot of times, we can't go chasing money, right? Because if that's not the business model, that's not the business model. We tell people all the time on the startup life, look, you can be the high end or you can be the low end. You can make money either way. And so you decide to be on the high end, and so that's where you want to be. It's fine. That's where you decide to be, on the higher end of the market. And when we think about the higher end, we think about your Targets and your Apples or whatever the case may be, as opposed to Android, or nothing wrong with Android if you're an Android person, but
iPhone.
Okay, never mind. So, but no, it's that debate, Android versus Apple, all the time. But the thing is, Apple decided to be on the higher end of the market, but Android decided to have the cheaper phones. And Android, believe it or not, most people don't know this, Android has the larger market share. More people have Android phones than have Apple phones because it's more affordable. Right? But But I think that's commendable that you decide to stick with the business model, because that's what you want to be known for, right? For sure. And forgive us, Startup Nation. We're downtown Memphis, and so we got some here at the office here. So we got some fire trucks going. So sorry about that if you're picking that up, for sure. But let me ask you this, man. Let's shift a little bit, if you would. So, we talked about servicing the community and reaching out to the community and stuff like that. And so they give us money for our services or whatever the case may be. So with that being said, some people think that entrepreneurs should be more vocal in, society and social issues. We're kind of in a somewhat political, divisive nature with, the political, this, that, and the other. So should entrepreneurs be obligated to give commentary on social issues? Should they stay out of it? Where do you stand on that?
I think you have to be true to who you are.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, if you're a vocal person, it's okay for you to be vocal. If you're not, it's okay if you're not, if you don't give commentary. I don't think we're obligated just because we're entrepreneurs. Again, some people, that's just not their thing to be vocal. And when they receive pressure from society or pressure from others to do that, a lot of times they may end up putting their foot in their mouth, or may end up in a situation that's bad for them and their family, because they were trying to please somebody else. So I do think that we all should, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I think we all should serve our community in some type of way. But again, what kind of goes back to the misconceptions of people. A lot of people think if you're not saying something out loud, if they didn't hear you say something, you're not doing anything about it.
Right.
And that's just not the case.
Right.
So I think as an entrepreneur, you have to know who you are, and you have to be confident and have enough esteem to say, just because they don't know, don't mean that it's not happening, and I'm not going to feel bad about it, because I can be doing work and not saying it out loud.
For sure.
You know, so I don't feel we're obligated to speak out, but I do feel that everybody is obligated to do something for their community, again, no matter if they're an entrepreneur or not.
For sure. I appreciate that, for sure. Let me ask you this, man. There are many HVAC, heating and air companies all over the place, right? Why should they go with you? Make the case.
You should go with Ro Rodgers Air Conditioning and Heating, LLC, because, one, we're honest.
Mm-hmm.
We're honest. Two, we're competent.
I hear that.
Three, we care. And that may not sound like a lot, to a lot of people, but the thing about HVAC that makes me different in HVAC is I chose HVAC. HVAC didn't choose me, right? So a lot of people end up in this industry because they heard that it make a lot of money. A lot of people end up in this industry because the thing that they wanted to do, they couldn't do for whatever reason.
Right.
They had a setback. I do heating and air because I love doing heating and air. And that comes across in my service. That comes across in my attention to detail. That comes across in my customer service. So when you deal with us, you can trust that we're going to do the job correctly. I can't say that we're going to be perfect. Sometimes we may make a mistake. When we make that mistake, you can be confident that we're going to come back and take care of that, though.
Right.
We're not going to run from it. We're going to honor our warranties. We're going to do things, up to code, and we're going to have the right, licenses. So when you do it, you can be safe. You can be comfortable. And I tell people a lot of times, we're not in the business of selling heating and air conditioning. We sell comfort. That's what we do. We want you to be comfortable in your home with the conditions, from air quality to heating to cooling, humidity, and all that. And we also want you to be comfortable, not wondering, how long is this thing going to last, or if this right here goes out today, can I count on this company? Can I count on? So we do all we can to bring you and show you that you can trust us and that you can be comfortable in your home.
I hear that. Who are your mentors, man?
My personal mentor is my former youth pastor.
Okay.
A person named Dwayne, and he started mentoring me when he started mentoring / discipling me when I was around probably 16 years old. He's successful in business itself. He's not an entrepreneur, but he works in the community, and he has a big role, and he has grown the division that he work in, time after time. But one of the reasons that he's my mentor is, again, he possesses a lot of the same qualities that I look at and I admire, right? He's not a person that can be bought. He's not doing anything just for the money. He has a big heart. He's always, active in the community. So, growing up, I didn't really see a lot of that as a child, right? In the community, So, when I saw that in him, and also he invested in me, which is what made a difference. I started in him, he invested in me. We developed this bond. So that's my personal, mentor to this day. About if he's 100, he's probably like almost 20 years older than me. So if he's 100, I'm going to be 80. He'll still be mentoring me. And then of course, I have people who I look at, and again, they kind of mentor me from afar.
For sure.
I have those as well.
Okay. Awesome stuff. What's your entrepreneurial superpower and why? Everybody has one.
I think I have a couple, but I would say the main one is I'm genuine.
Okay.
And coming up in the community, there was a saying that people said, and if I started off, you would probably be able to finish it, but people used to always say, real, recognize, real, right?
Yeah.
That's how we said it, in the community.
Right.
But then in the business world, you heard it, which is the same principle, but different words. People used to say, what's from the heart reaches the heart. And some people would just say, people can tell when you're genuine. And I think that's my superpower. Like, the motto for my business is real, reliable customer service. the reason that that's my motto or my slogan is because I want to provide real, reliable customer service. And what that means is a lot of people talk about customer service, but a lot of people don't really try to deliver, don't really want to deliver. The spot that you see me at a lot, one of the reasons that I fell in love with that spot is because, of course, not just because the chicken sandwich tastes great, but it's because I have a thing with customer service.
Gotcha.
And that customer service is great. So I got that, I experienced that, and I always said I want to be the blank of heating and air conditioning, right? I take that same thing. But when I go into a customer's home and I'm saying something, I'm not selling them. And that's what I mean by I'm genuine, right?
Gotcha.
When the customer, which we do give discounts and we do help people, when the customer comes to me and they say, you know what, we really can't afford this, and I look at that customer, I say, you know what, I care about your situation. I'm not just saying that because it's the right thing to say. I really have empathy and I really care about that customer. And a lot of times I end up giving, a lot of discounts because of that reason. For sure. But I think me being genuine is, again, like a superpower, and the genuineness also bleeds over to like self-awareness. Like a part of being genuine is being, aware of who I am, how I think, and that's the good and the bad. I recognize and I acknowledge my good. I recognize and I acknowledge my bad. I'm not going to run from that. And of course, out of being genuine, I'm honest. So all of that flows out of the one superpower, I think, is I'm genuine. I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to try to pretend to be somebody else. I'm going to be me, and in being me, I'm also caring for others.
Gotcha. So, man, we're just about to the end of this session of the Startup Life, man. Just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. You gave amazing content. We really appreciate you coming on the show, man. But there's an entrepreneur out there. They haven't started up. They haven't jumped off that cliff, or they just feel stuck in their business, man. Give them some advice. Give them a last nugget of to help them move forward in their path of entrepreneurship.
Don't listen to the naysayers. People, as we already said, people are going to try to project their fears on you. People are going to tell you all the reasons why it can't be done. But you have to believe in yourself and know that it can be done. And you have to believe in yourself enough to invest in yourself. You have to believe in yourself enough to know that, you have what it takes. But it's just that choice. And the other thing is, you don't want to live with regret, right? So you don't want to look back and be thinking, what if I would have done it? What if I would have? Worst case scenario is you try and it don't succeed. Guess what? You still live. It's like Friday, right? Like you live to do something else. Worst case scenario, you go back to doing what you were doing. And the fear, a lot of times, I think all fear boils down to, or most fear, I think most fear boils down to what other people will say.
Right.
Like, if you're an entrepreneur or consider entrepreneurship, ask yourself this: if no other people could see and know if you failed or not, would you do it then? If nobody could see and be like, that person, would you do it? A lot of times the answer is yes. So what that tells us is we really a lot of times care too much about what other people think.
That's true.
Take that jump, get out of the boat. If it don't work out the first time, you can try again, or you can take another route. But live your life.
I hear that. And that's going to do it for this session of the Startup Life, man. Did you enjoy it?
I definitely enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. And it was a pleasure. Again, it's a pleasure and it's an honor being here.
Awesome. All right, Startup Nation. So here's my final take. When it comes to Rolandaus, let me tell you why he is a great entrepreneur. The first thing is that he values customer service. Customer service is so important to Rolandaus in making sure that the customer feels like they've made a good choice and that they really are getting, the service that they deserve when it comes to the great service that he provides with his heating and air business. The biggest thing that I love about Rolandaus is that he empowers his client base. He empowers his customer base. He gives them the knowledge and the tools that they need to not only make an informed decision, but also to make sure that the decision when they go with him, that it was the right one. And that builds trust, but more importantly, that means repeat business for Rolandaus. If you want to let us know what you think about the show, have an idea for a show topic, or like to advertise on our show, send us a message on the Startup Life Podcast Facebook page. And while you are there, like and follow our page as well. It's a way for us to engage with you, Startup Nation, and really grow our community. The link is here in the show notes. Subscribe to the show, as it can now be heard on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast platform is. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts and you find our content valuable, please give us a 5-star rating, as it will help us climb the charts and help more people find our show. Also, don't forget to sign up for exclusive content and sign up for the Startup Life All Access Pass on the Binge Podcast Network's Patreon page. And hey, if you have an idea, be about that life, the startup life.